Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. Tonight, we're going to be talking a little about Seder. How do we do it? For some of us, this is going to be the first time we're doing the Passover Seder alone, and or in not in the synagogue, not in a public setting. So I just kind of wanted to go through the simple directions of how it's done and the meaning behind a lot of the things which we do. So, first of all, it's always important to remember that doing the Seder on your own it's pretty easy. It's not so difficult. And if there wasn't any talking and you just were reading just going through the actual, whatever in the Haggadah, the book, then it would probably it could take around even 15 minutes just doing it. It's very easy. It's not a hard thing to do. Obviously, it takes a little longer because we like to discuss it and we like to have a nice time with the family and whoever which we're with. But it's not something which is so hard. Just about practicing, a little practice and knowing and just reminding ourselves how do we do it. So the main thing to remember is why do we do the Seder and how did it come to be? So we all know the story of Passover, that God took the Jewish people out of Egypt. They were slaves there. And every year, to remember that, we do a Seder, which we talk about how God took us out and all the miracles which happened to us and the 10 plagues and how it took us out to become a nation to receive the Torah. And that is actually a mitzvah, a biblical commandment to talk about what happened to us and the story of the Jewish people becoming a nation. And another biblical commandment on the night of Passover is to eat the matzah. You have to eat a certain amount, an ounce of matzah at least, and through that we fulfill a biblical commandment. So those are the two main things that's important to remember, and that's really why we do it every year, to commemorate this and to remind ourselves what happened and to thank Hashem. It's important before even Pesach starts that we need to get rid of all the chametz in our house. Chametz is anything leaven, which is basically bread and water mixed together, and which was baked after 18 minutes. That is leaven. So any cookies, crackers, obviously bread, all those things we need to get rid of out of our house. And now some things which we could do these days, some things if we don't want to throw it out, we can actually sell it. We sell it to someone who is not Jewish. They're allowed to have that on Pesach, so that's okay. We're just not allowed to own it. So you could go on Chabad.org on the day before Pesach, and you could actually, it's very easy, you could sell your chametz through going on Chabad.org. Very simple process, and that's something very important. We're not allowed to own it, and so that's why we sell it. And we're also, obviously, we're not allowed to eat any leaven, any chametz. Really important message, the message behind leaven, the reason why we're not allowed to have leaven on Passover is because leaven represents the ego or any, and really any negative traits which we try to work on to rid ourselves of. And through not eating that, abstaining from that, and only having matzah, which is very thin, and that represents humility, it's a reminder to ourselves to try to work on, trying to work on improving our character. There's an interesting law when it comes to leaven. It says that you need to search your house. It says in the Mishnah, you need to search your house to get rid of all the leaven which is there. And all the rooms, your kitchen and the dining room, all those rooms, you need to get rid of it. Now, it says, what about the places which you never bring leaven into? Your fancy office or something which you would never even bring any bread or food, no food allowed. And by that, the Mishnah says, a place which you don't bring in leaven, you don't need to search for. What's the message from that? A place which you don't bring in leaven, that represents other people, other people's leaven. The whole mitzvah of getting rid of the leaven, the ego or any traits which you need to get rid of, that applies to ourselves. It's important. We need to work on ourselves and focus on things we could improve in, things in our control. However, other people, we need to let them do what they need to do, but we shouldn't focus on getting rid of other people's leaven. A place where there is no leaven, we should stay out of. That's not our business. That's not something which is important for us. We need to work on ourselves and things that we have the power to do. So just a couple things before we start, and I start going through the order and the actual how we do a Seder. Just want to talk about some of the main things which come up and which we use in the Passover Seder. We have the wine, we have matzah, and we have the Moer, the bitter herbs, which I'll show you later. And these three things are very essential, the most important things that we use during the Passover Seder. And some people have asked me in the past, like, what's with the matzah and the Moer? It's just every year we eat the same thing. The Moer, these bitter herbs, it doesn't taste good. Why are we eating this? The matzah, some people like it, some people really don't like it. And it's the same board ingredients. Every single year we need to have the same ingredients, the same thing. What's going on? So really, all these wine, matzah, and Moer all contain a beautiful message and something we can apply to our lives. Wine is made out of grapes, and the wine is made, during the process of making wine, the grapes contain the wine, but the wine is hidden. You don't see it. All you see is grapes. And through a process, you can bring out the wine through some work, and you could bring out the wine, but originally you don't see it. Something which is unseen, and that represents in ourselves those amazing character traits which we all contain, and those talents which each individual has in themselves, and only they have it. No one else has it, because God created you as an individual. That means you have specific talents and a specific mission which only you can do. No one else in the world can do it. And unfortunately, some people times could think to themselves, that get really down on, and think that a person could think to himself, I'm hopeless, I'm a loser, I can never get ahead, I'm always in a rut, look at everyone around me, they're all doing so well. And a person could lose focus of the good character traits which he has inside himself, he or she has inside himself. And that's the message of the grapes, of the wine, that we need to take out those good character traits, bring them out, and lose the negativity, bring out our good things, and hopefully that will get us out of that rut which we have and keep us going on a good track. Then we have matzah. Matzah, the whole idea is that it's cooked under 18 minutes. So it was the Jews, as the Jews were leaving Egypt, they were baking food for they're traveling the desert, and the Egyptians were chasing after them, and they didn't have time to let the matzah cook properly. So they took the matzah and they ran out, and it cooked, and they needed to cook it very fast. So this teaches us, and this represents, and it's a message that sometimes we want to make a decision, we want to start something new, we want to take upon something good upon ourselves, but we say, maybe I'll do it tomorrow, maybe I'll do it next week, maybe I'll do it in a month. The whole message of matzah is we need to do it now. We need to make a decision now. Right now I want to do it. You need to do it today, at this moment. You can't push it off. When you push it off, it won't happen. That's the message which matzah gives us. Third thing that we have is the Moer. Moer is very bitter, and that represents the bitter things which we have in our life. Sometimes in order to move forward with the good things which we want to do, we need to look back and sometimes deal with some bitter things which happened. It could be a bitter relationship, a friendship which you had with somebody, and there could be a bitter moment which you had, and we never really dealt with it, and we never really did anything about it, and we never faced it. The Moer is reminding us that really, if you want to move forward, we should get the closure which you need. Face that bitter thing which you had in the past, and that through facing that, dealing with it in a proper way, that will help us really move forward in a positive way. But that's something which Moer teaches us. So some of you will everyone's going to be in their house this year. We're not going to be going out, and some of you may have some family and friends to be with, but some people, they may be alone, and it could be a little nerve-wracking. I'm alone. Is this a proper Seder? Being alone at my house? How is this? How is this something good? So so you should know that in 1988, the Rebbe, blessed in memory, his wife passed away, and he usually every year on Passover he would do the Seder with his wife, and the guests would be there after his Seder passed away, after his wife passed away. So the Seder was approaching. He didn't really have anyone to do the Seder with. So there was a boy named Ari Halberstam, and his family always used to help out in the Rebbe's house, and cleaning and doing the laundry and cooking. And his mother told Ari, "I want you to invite the Rebbe to our Seder. So he should feel like someone's inviting him." And so Ari was a little uncomfortable to do it, but he went over to the Rebbe and he said that you're welcome. My mother wants to invite you to come to our Seder. And the Rebbe said, "No, it's fine. You have it's fine." And his mother said, "Either come to our Seder or I can join you for your Seder." And the Rebbe said, "No, it's fine. I want you guys to have I need to do the Seder in my house, and I don't want you to stay with me. I want you to be with your family." And other people could have been by the Seder of the Rebbe, but the Rebbe refused. He didn't want to burden anyone, and he decided to do it. He decided to do the Seder by himself that year. So seemingly, it sounds a little sad. The Rebbe was someone which established many Chabad houses, and because of him, probably 500,000 to 1 million Jews are able to have the Seder around the world in a group. Really, it's an unusual thing for someone to say, "I don't have a Seder." Wherever you go, in the most far-flung places, there is always going to be a Seder there. I have traveled personally in the past 4 years to Ukraine, Slovakia, and South Africa to do Starm for people. There's wherever you're going to be in the world, there's always somewhere you could join to. And it's a little funny. The Rebbe who established all this, who made all this happen, he had no one to be with. He was by himself. So maybe we don't know the reason for this, but maybe we could say that the Rebbe, who is the leader of the generation, why did he do the Seder by himself? Because he wanted to give a message that in case someday there might be a person who doesn't have a Seder to go to and who is by himself. And he wanted to give the message that it's okay. If you're by yourself, it's not a problem. You're doing a Seder with God. It's you and God doing it together. So this year, if someone finds himself by himself in his house, him or herself in their house alone, you're not alone. You're doing your Seder with God. It's you and God. It's something very special. And if the Rebbe did it by himself, it's okay. You also can do it by yourself, and it'll be just fine, and it'll be a very proper Seder. So the word Seder actually means order. There's 15 steps, and there's an order of 15 things that you need to do, that the Seder entails that we need to do. So obviously, it's something which is supposed to be enjoyable, and we want to have a good time doing it. But the order does matter. It makes a difference. Imagine if you went to a football game, and you come and you bring a friend along, and that friend has no clue anything about football. He doesn't know the rules, doesn't know the teams, and he's watching, and he doesn't know that you have to throw the football on the touchdown to score a point. He has no clue, doesn't know anything. You probably wouldn't enjoy the game very much. You'd probably be bored. What's going on over here? There'd be no excitement to it. Imagine if the players didn't follow the rules, and a player decided that why do I have to listen to the rules? I'm just going to take the ball and just when the game's not playing, and just bring it to the end zone, and I should get points. What do you mean? I brought it to the end zone. Obviously, that wouldn't work. It makes no sense. There's an order that goes along. So it's important to remember that there is an order, and we should try as best of our abilities to follow it. If sometimes we forget or we're not exactly sure, that's okay. We just need to try our best, but we should try to the best of our ability to follow the order, follow the Seder as it was set up. Before you come to the Seder, it's always a good idea to get a nice, to be well rested, maybe take a nap a little before. We want to be in a good mood. We want to be able to discuss other things with other people, and having a good, being awake and alert is something which is very important. We also want to be very relaxed. The whole idea is that, people could come into a Seder and be all nervous. Am I going to do this exact thing right? And I might do this wrong. Be very intense and scaring other people around him and scaring themselves. That's not good. The whole point is that we're celebrating our freedom, that we're free, we're happy. So it's very important that not to worry about if I'm doing every single thing proper. You want to be relaxed. You want to have a good time. And really, there's no such thing as a perfect Seder. There's no way that a Seder is supposed to look like this. There's no such thing. Every single Seder is different. And what a Seder should look like is you and people connecting with each other, discussing the Exodus from Egypt, and having a good experience with one another. That's what a Seder should look like. There is no such thing as the perfect Seder. So that's something to keep in mind. So I'm going to pull up over here a Haggadah with instructions, and we're going to go through it a little to get familiar with the order of things, how things run. And this will be available on we'll send out an email. Chabad will send out an email of all these things, and you could have it after the class. You could look it over and you could print it out and to use in your own home. So the first thing you do before sunset, if the woman or girls above 3 should light candles in the house. If you're by yourself and you're a man, you light candles for yourself. That's the first thing you do. After it becomes dark, it's very important to wait till it becomes dark. Then we start. First thing we do is, if you see, we pour the first cup of wine for Kiddush, and we start with making Kiddush. So we pour our first cup of wine. We say the Kiddush. Then, after you take your full cup and you lean to the left while you are drinking it, like this. You have some people bring pillows, make a whole fancy contraptions to lean on. But the point is that you need back then the kings would be on like a couch and like lie down, and that was a sign of royalty. So on the night of Pesach, the whole idea is that we're free and we're not slaves anymore. We're royalty. So therefore, we want to lean to the left while we're doing the important mitzvot. So after Kiddush, you take the wine. Very, very important. You lean to the left while drinking the wine. Okay. If you take a look, we have a Seder plate. And before you start, really this is something which before you start the Seder, you should prepare your Seder plate. And there is, we have over here, I'll go through what's on a Seder plate. First of all, we have an egg, a hard-boiled egg. Make sure it's not a raw egg. And this represents one of the sacrifices which they would bring in the temple. And some people have the custom of eating it during the meal, which we'll get to later on. We have a chicken bone like this over here, and you should have like a bone with a little meat on it, not a lot of meat, and that represents the Paschal sacrifice which they brought in the temple. It's important that on the night of the Seder, we don't have any meat. You can have chicken, but no meat, because we want to show that we're in exile now, unfortunately, and we cannot bring the sacrifice. So we can't. We're showing by not having meat, we're showing what we're waiting for Mashiach to come in order that, and when we can have the sacrifice. That's important, not to have any meat. We have the Moer, the bitter herbs. It's horseradish raw. You can get that in the store, and this is not ground up, but you can. Once you get in the store, you want to grind it up, but before the Seder, but not too early. Don't do it too in advance, because it'll get dry and it won't be bitter. You want to keep the bitterness in the Moer. Then we have so that's in the middle of the Seder plate. We have the karpas, which is a vegetable, typically a potato or onion. That's over here. You want to use a a very small piece, doesn't need to be a big piece. And that we'll get to when we use that. We have on the bottom of the Seder plate the lettuce, romaine lettuce, which is called chazeret. And that's also considered like Moer. And when we do the mitzvah of Moer, the bitter herbs, we actually combine the chazeret and the Moer and we eat them together. And the last thing is the charoset, which is apples, some like walnuts and a little wine mixed together, and that represents the bricks which the Jewish people worked with in Egypt. And you know that if you take some wine and apples and some walnuts, you mix it together, it actually kind of looks like mortar bricks, which they used, which looks a little like bricks, and that reminds us of the work which they did in Egypt. So. So back to the Haggadah. So after we make Kiddush, we drink our wine, we lean to the left. Next thing is Orchatz, which means that's the second step, washing the hands. Why are we washing our hands? We are washing our hands for the karpas, the potato, the vegetable. There's actually a law that before you eat a potato, a vegetable with liquid on it, you're supposed to wash your hands. The way we wash our hands in this particular part of the Haggadah is we pour water on the right hand, the left hand, and each 6 times, and we do it 6 times total. So you're going to be pouring 3 times on the right hand, 3 times on the left hand. But it's important to remember that you don't do 3 times in a row on the left hand. You go right, left, right, left, right, left. So that's how you wash for the karpas, for the potato or the onion or the vegetable which you're using. You take that and you make the blessing. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the earth. That's a blessing you make before you eat. And before you eat a vegetable, you dip it in salt water, which you just needed before the Seder. You need to prepare a little bowl of water, mix it with some salt. You dip it in, and then you eat it. And it's supposed to be a small piece. It's not supposed to be a big piece of a vegetable. So after that, is yachatz, which is the breaking the middle matzah. So we have over here, by the Seder, the leader of the Seder should have 3 matzahs like this over here. And by yachatz, you take out the middle matzah. There's 3 stacked up on top of each other. You take out the middle one and you break it in half. Sometimes it's more. You get more than 2 pieces, and you want to take the bigger piece. This one looks big over here, and that will be the afikomen, and that we will save for later in the Haggadah. So we'll put that on the side. So now your Seder plate should look like you have 1 full bottom matzah, the smaller piece of the middle one, and the top matzah in your Seder plate. So now when it comes to the afikomen, that means dessert. Some people have the custom that they'll break the middle matzah, they'll put the afikomen in a cloth, and then the kids come and they steal it, and then they make the parents pay like ransom money, which is like a prize, to get the afikomen back. And this custom actually has sources in the Talmud. Rabbi Eliezer talks about grabbing the afikomen, but Chabad and a lot of people don't do the custom of stealing afikomen because we don't want to teach our kids to steal. This is the night of the Seder. It's a very holy night, and the whole stealing, negotiating for ransom is not exactly. This is what I think is not exactly the best educational for our kids. Now, I don't want to it is a Jewish custom, which people do, and Jews have been doing for many, many years. So it's something which is perfectly fine that you do it. It's something accepted. But Chabad and many others personally don't, because we don't like the educational message of stealing. So what we do is we take that afikomen, that piece of matzah, and we'll put it aside for later on. Then, so now we come to Magid. Magid is the main bulk of the Haggadah, and that is the telling over of the story of Passover, of the Jewish people in Egypt. So it says the tray of the matzot is moved aside and the second cup is poured. You're not drinking yet. Okay, so we'll pour our second cup of wine into our cup, and we usually go around, and each child asks the manishtana, and it's 4 questions, and everyone should really say it along and quietly to themselves. And even if you're by yourself, you can ask the manishtana, you can ask the questions to yourself. That's fine, and it's important for everyone to say it. So we go through the story of I'm going to be scrolling down over here, and we take turns, everyone reading it. If you have something nice to say, prepare before. Okay, so when we get to the words blood, fire, and pillars of smoke, we take our Kiddush cup that has wine, and we're going to pour 3 times a little wine out into a not a plastic bowl or a broken dish, because the wine we're pouring out represents bad wine, not good wine. So we want to pour it out into something we can throw out. We don't want to pour the bad wine into our good dishes. Pour out 3 times when we say blood, fire, pillars, or smoke, and then when we get to the 10 plagues, blood, frogs, lice, by each plague, you say the plague and you pour out a little wine as you say the name of each plague. You put, and then again, it says the acronyms of all the different plagues, Ditzach, Hadash, V'achav. You pour out wine 3 times when you say each one. You put your cup back and you fill it up with wine so it's full to the top. You continue saying everything, you go along. And at the end, so now we come to a very, very important part of Magid, which we talk about the Passover, which is Pesach, the carving Pesach, Matzah, and Moer. And there's 3 paragraphs which talk about it. So even, let's say you're rushing, you don't have enough time, and you don't want to do every single part of Magid, you should definitely take note to say these 3 paragraphs. The one of Passover, the Passover lamb that our fathers ate during the time of the Beit HaMikdash. For what reason did they do so? The next paragraph, the matzah that we ate for what reason? Because the dough of our fathers did not have time to become leavened. And this Moer that we eat for what reason? These 3 paragraphs, very, very important to say. You should make a point of saying them. So we continue along. And at the end of it, we say the blessing on the wine again, and we drink leaning to the left side. I suggest that during the time of Magid, it would be a great idea to prepare something before the Seder, something which you never said before, something which other people haven't heard, or a new message to yourself, but something you haven't thought before, a new message to give along at the Seder. And this could be something very nice that you want to give over something new. This could be something that will really enhance like the whole Seder for the whole family. So try to give out a new message which you're trying to relay to the people around you by the Seder. Okay, the next thing is Rachsa. This time we wash our hands for the matzah. So this time, first time, remember, we washed our hands. We did right, left, right, left, right, left. Now you're going to do 3 times on the right and then 3 times on the left, because we're washing for bread. It's different. If you're a lefty, so I'm a lefty, I do the left hand first, 3 times on the left and 3 times on the right. So you wash your hands, you make the blessing, and then we don't speak till we make the bracha, the blessings on the matzah. So we have motzi, and then we see matzah. So for motzi, we take all 3 matzot, make the blessing. After we make that blessing, bless you, Lord our God, our King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. We let go of the bottom matzah, and we have now the top matzah and the middle smaller portion. And we make the next blessing, bless you, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with the commandments and commanded us concerning the eating of the matzah. And we will, so now, you're doing the mitzvah of matzah now. You're fulfilling the biblical commandment that God wants us to do on tonight on the night of Passover to eat the matzah. So the best way to do it is really to eat the full smaller piece, which was the middle piece, and then crack off around 2/3 of this matzah over here, and because you're trying to get a kazais, which means an olive, a portion amount from each of these pieces, and that's around 2/3 of this matzah. Another way to think about it is it's around the size of, imagine a golf ball, and if you took the matzah and you broke up into little pieces and compacted it, the size of a golf ball, that's what we're aiming to get for when eating the matzah. So you want to have 2/3 of this matzah, and we want to have 2/3 of this matzah and eat those together. So what I would do is I would crack off a little of the top one. Now I think it's around 2/3, and I'll eat them together if you can. If it's too much, then just have one of them, and that's okay. It's better to have two golf ball size amounts, but if you can only have one, that's okay. So that's then after you do that, you did the mitzvah of eating the matzah. Next is Moer. So you want to take the Moer over here from the Seder plate and combine it with the lettuce, and this obviously is going to be ground up, and you put it together, and you want to have, again, a kazai, so olive size amount, which these days we can do, if a good reference is a golf ball. So you want to, if you compact, so it's a nice amount. It's going to be a little bitter. If you have the romaine lettuce, that kind of takes away the taste so much of the bitterness. You bunch it all together, and you say the blessing. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments, command us concerning the eating of the Moer. You eat the Moer. This is something very bitter. This is not reminding us of our freedom. It's reminding us of our slavery. So we don't lean while we're eating the Moer. And that's also something I forgot to mention. While you're eating the matzah, the step before, very important to lean to the left like this while you're eating it. It's not just a little detail, it's a very big detail, the eating of the matzah, because we want to have freedom. Again, you could put like a pillow on your chair, on the table to make it comfortable while you're leaning. That's something really important that you need to do. So we do matzah, then we had the Moer, and then we had the korech, the sandwich. So also another thing to remember, I have over here a Seder plate. Now, not everyone has to have a Seder plate. Even if you don't have one, you can still take the Moer. You should prepare before the Seder bowls of Moer and all the other things on the Seder plate for everyone to take part of and to use. So, so after is korech is a sandwich. So you're going to take the bottom matzah, and you're also going to need a kazai, so all of amount, so around 2/3. And so I'll crack off a little bit. Then I will put on the Moer, a kazai, so all size amount of Moer on the matzah, like this. And then you crack it in half, make a little sandwich. Now this is where the charoset, the bricks, which we talked about, comes in. You need to, well, let me go back for a second. Before the sandwich, I forgot to mention, if you read over here, by the Moer, take kazais of the Moer, dip it into the charoset. I forgot to mention that. I want to go back. That's very important. By the Moer, before we eat it, we dip it into the charoset, the apple mixture over here. You dip it in, and then you shake it off, so it's not you don't want it to take away the bitter taste. That's something very important by Moer. That's why you're eating Moer. So then we have the sandwich. As we'll read, take the third matzah and also kazayas of the chazeret, which is to be dipped in the charoset as well. So you're going to dip it in again, then shake off the any pieces. You just want to dip it in, but then you don't want it to really be on your Moer. Then you put it in the sandwich and you eat it. This time you do lean while you're eating your sandwich like this. You lean to the left. So remember, so let's just go over, and then when you finish that, then you come to the meal. So let's just go over what we need by the Seder and when we do need to lean and what we do need to lean. So before the Seder, you're going to want to prepare the Seder plate, which has 6 things on it. We have the egg. I don't know if you could see this, not really, so I'll just show you. You have the egg. You have the zroa, a piece of bone with a little chicken on it. That represents the Passover sacrifice. We don't really use this. You just have it on as a remembrance. The bitter herbs. So you'll have a little lettuce on the bottom, and you'll have the Moer, the horseradish in the middle. You have the vegetable, and you're going to have the apple mix, the charoset, and you're going to want to have also 3 matzahs for everyone, and a little bowl of salt water, and a cup, and some wine for the 4 times we're having wine. So those are that's what you're going to want to prepare before the Seder. And we used everything so far. When you come to the meal, shulchan aruch, that's the meal. Some people have the custom to take the egg and to dip it in the salt water and eat it. It's a good thing to do. It doesn't hurt. So you have your meal. Now is a good time. You're allowed to drink wine now. That's no problem. After the meal, take your last drink of water, because next thing is safun. That is dessert. And we want to take the afikomen, which we put away, and we eat that. After we eat the afikomen, we don't drink or eat anything. That's what it's customary not to drink or eat. So therefore, you want to make sure you drink a lot of water before you come to the afikomen. So you have your afikomen, you eat it. Make sure to lean to the left while you're eating it. So all the times that we eat the matzah, we're leaning to the left. All the times that we drink, that we have the wine, we're leaning to the left. But when we have the Moer plain, that's the time when we don't lean. But besides that, whenever having matzah, whenever having wine, it's always important to lean to the left side. After that, we can see it says the 3rd cup is poured now. And so you want to fill up the cup again with the 3rd cup of wine. And we're going to say birchat hamazon, which is the blessing which you say after you have a meal. So we say that blessing, taking us down. After we do that, you drink the wine, leaning to the left. Re-pour the 4th cup, the final cup, which you're going to be drinking. Another thing which we have also during the Seder is the cup of Elijah. Usually at the beginning of the Seder, we fill up a cup of wine, and that's the cup for Elijah. That's something I forgot to mention. And that's also something you want to do before the Seder. And we'll have all these things in our email that you can see as a reminder of like a checklist of all the things you need to have before the Seder. Then we say, so now after you pour your 4th cup, we say this paragraph which says, pour out your wrath upon the nations that do not acknowledge you. Basically, we're asking Hashem to protect the Jewish people from people which want to harm us. Unfortunately, back then, obviously, it was a very dangerous time. Pesach was a scary time for the Jewish people. There's blood libels, and sometimes this was during the non-Jewish holidays, which there were riots and things. It was a very scary time. So the Jewish people were asking God to protect them, and we say that also now, to protect us from anyone which wants to harm us. And you say this, you open the door of the house, and you say that while the door is open. Then you say Hallel, which is just thanking God for all the good things which He did. Okay, and different phrases. When you're done with Hallel, take the cup, drink it, and lean to the left, and that's the last cup which you drink. Then you say the blessing, the after blessing on the wine. And then you use the last step, the 15th step, is nirtza, which basically means that Hashem liked it, enjoyed it. So a person could, now something interesting, the 15th step is a little interesting. What is it? It just, you don't do anything. It just says Hashem liked it. How is that a step? The whole thing is there's 15 steps of things we do. So it's actually a really beautiful message that we learn out from nirtza, is that nirtza is saying how no matter how your Seder was, don't worry about it. As long as you try your hardest, you try your best, and you're working hard, and you try to have a meaningful, good discussions and a good time and a good time with everybody. Hashem likes it. Nirtza, it's something which God likes, something which is important to him. So that's the meaning of the last step, for us to know that don't be worried about exactly if I did every single thing right. Do your best, and Nirtza, and Hashem likes it. And then we say next year in Jerusalem. So there we have basically I went through a short, how everything works, and these things will be available in different resources to remind ourselves, and we could print out before a holiday to use during the Seder. I wanted to end off with a short story to bring out what the real message of Passover and the Seder is. There was the day after the Seder, there was a big tzaddik, a big rabbi. His name was Levi Yitzchak of Bardichev, and he was praying. This was in Ukraine, and he was praying in Bardichev is in Ukraine now. I'm not sure back then exactly which part what country it was under, but this was in he was praying the night after the Seder, and he had a godly revelation, and he wanted to know who had the best Seder in the world. Who was the best one? Which one did God like the most? And while he was praying, God came and he said, you know who it was? It was Moshe, the water carrier. Okay. Moshe, the water carrier, wasn't known to be such a great learned man. But okay, it was interesting. That interested Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Bardichev. So he called after davening, after prayers, he called over the Moshe and he said, what happened last night? Moshe says to Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, I promise it will never happen again. I promise. He's like, what do you mean? Wow, tell me about your Seder. Like, I promise never happen again. I don't want to talk about it. He's like, I'm commanding you. You must tell me what happened last night by your Seder. Moshe reluctantly says, okay, I'll tell you what happened. What happened was every year, I never look forward to Pesach. I'm always really dreading it. Something which I really don't enjoy. Why? Because unfortunately, I'm someone who Moshe is saying, so unfortunately, I was an orphan. I had no real education. I wasn't really in school. I had no nurture. And fortunately, to numb my pain, I turned to alcohol. I have a problem with drinking alcohol. This is something that's what I do. This helps me out. And when Pesach comes, it's very concerning because vodka is chametz. It's made out of wheat, and you can't have it on Passover. I wasn't sure what to do. I was really dreading it. So the night before Pesach, I thought of an idea. I'm going to drink a lot, and hopefully all this amount will carry me through enough to get me through the entire Passover when I'm not allowed to drink. And so that's what he did. The day before Pesach, he's drinking a lot, and he's out. He's knocked out. He's going to sleep. So at the night of Passover, when everyone's coming home from shul, his wife wakes him up and he says, Moshe, it's time to do the Seder. He gets up and he says, I have a headache. I'm tired. There's no way I can do it. Wake me up in an hour. His wife wakes him up in an hour. He says, I'm not feeling well. Give me another hour. He keeps on doing this until he gets to 12 o'clock. At night, his wife wakes him up and she says, Moshe, I'm embarrassed of you. All the other people in the town had their Seder. This is the only house which didn't have a Seder on Passover night. I mean, you should be ashamed of yourself. This is an embarrassment. Your kids didn't have a Passover Seder. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Moshe says, okay, give me another hour. Let me try in another hour. He goes back to sleep. He gets up at 1 o'clock in the morning finally, and he feels terrible. He doesn't want to really do anything. But he gets out of bed, wakes his kids up, convinces them to come down to the Seder table, seats them all around, and he says, listen up. On the night of Passover, we're supposed to have a Seder. Why do we have a Seder? Because God took the Jewish people out of Egypt. They were slaves for many, many years. And God took us out. And if God didn't take us out of Egypt, we'd still be slaves now. So let's thank God that that he took us out of Egypt. And right? And Moshe told his kids, you guys were born cursed. You were born cursed because you had a father like me, someone who can't get his act together, who's an alcoholic, and you guys were very, very unlucky, and we're in a bad situation. And let's pray to Hashem that just like He took out the Jewish people from Egypt, so too He should take us out of our exile, take us out of our misery, and we want to have the complete redemption. And that's what Moshe told his family. And then they ran through the city, a quick 15 minutes. It was done, and they went back to sleep. So after Moshe told the story over to the Levi Yitzchak of Raditchev, Moshe said, you know what, but I was so ashamed that my alcohol problem caused me that I should miss out on the Seder. I promise you, this will never, ever happen again. I'm stopping. I'm gonna, quit drinking, starting from Pesach. I'm never gonna let the alcohol get a hold of me. And Rabbi Levi of Yitzchak of Raditchev said that what do we see from this story of Moshe? Why did he have the best Seder in the entire world? The reason why he had the best Seder in the entire world was because it was real. He meant it. He wanted to get out of exile. He felt that he was in a bad situation. He really wanted to leave. It was very unpleasant for him. And he said, God, you took the Jewish people out of Egypt, so can you take me out of my misery, out of my personal exile? And you know what? He meant it, and it was real, and it was a genuine experience. That is what Hashem is looking for. That's what God is looking for. So to remember through this year that we're going to try to follow the order of everything and do everything properly. But to remember that the main thing is that it should be a genuine, real experience that we enjoy either with ourselves or with our family, and it should have a lasting effect on us, and we should be able to perform the Seder in better circumstances and ultimately with the coming of Mashiach. But that's something, an important message that we could take through for our Passover this year. Make it a real experience, real good, enjoyable family experience for everybody. So we'll email everything out to different resources if you want to use those. And it should go well for everybody. So have a good night, and good luck with your Seder.